love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better.
All right, welcome to the Fantasy Six Pack 2022 Fantasy Football Team Previews. We're going to be covering the Tennessee Titans, and joining me to do that is Mr. Dave Eddy from Fantasy Six Pack. Let's just jump right into things. So, starting off here with the quarterbacks, Mr. Ryan Tannehill leads the way, overall 142, QB 20. They did draft Malik Willis. Much later stab there at him. Tannehill is a guy who, I felt like was really underrated for many years, right? And I think you can agree with that.
Absolutely.
Burned everybody last year, dude, who took a chance on him. I mean, he was finally getting drafted appropriately, I felt like. Yeah. And then just the wheels fell off for that entire Titans offense. Now, they're looking at a pretty big overhaul at the wide receiver core. What's your take on Tannehill this year? I mean, clearly his draft stock has fallen like a rock. And, I mean, do you agree with that?
I do. I am very far out on Ryan Tannehill. I mean, I don't want to be too hot takey here, but I would take him directly out of my draft pool. I wouldn't even consider him as a QB2 for me personally. I think that you are going to see him fall even further this season. So me personally, like I said, straight up just X'd right out of my draft pool. I'm not even interested.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta believe the efficiency goes back up slightly because last year was just so bad, but
nope.
The weapons are not there for him. I mean, no AJ Brown.
That's a
big one, man. And they got rid of Corey Davis a couple of years ago, which we're finding out might have been a big loss too. So yeah, he's not somebody I'm really buying in on. He feels just like his floor is much lower than it has been in the past, and so that really I'm with you. Like even in 2 QB leagues, I'd rather take other guys around him. My rankings might say one thing, but that's just the rankings. Just Derrick Henry returning this season, overall 5th pick, running back 5. So, not much else behind him, man. Like just literally nothing. So they are riding the Henry train again, it looks like. And we've already done the Colts video, but can Henry get back into that conversation for RB1 and overall number 1 player? This, even after the injury last season and the many years of super high usage.
I mean, I'm going to say, you'd be crazy to say he couldn't, because I think that Derrick Henry is the best runner in football. I'm not saying he's the best running back in football, but he's the best runner in football. The problem that he has now is the talent around him has just been depleted. And the line is much as we've seen teams just stack the box against this Titans team and Derrick Henry still run around and through people, I honestly think that we probably start to see Derrick Henry start to decline and just never be the player that he was again. I'll be honest with you, Joe. Again, maybe super hot take for you. I think that Hassan Haskins is a absolute 1,000,000% have to handcuff with Derrick Henry, because I honestly am going to be shocked. And I know we can't predict injuries and it's bad business to try to, but I am fairly certain we're not going to see a full season from Derrick Henry. He's just been so used. And like I said, the talent around him is so depleted that I think that he has just been burnt to the ground. And as much as I love Derrick Henry on and off the field, I think that we have seen the best of him.
I don't disagree. I mean, the injury he is going to be trying to come back from and perform at a high level from is not a good one. The Jones fracture, dude. You see a lot of guys kind of really take a step back in their production after coming back from those injuries. So, I mean, yeah, could Henry prove everybody wrong because he's a total monster? Yeah, sure. But history shows that it's just not very likely to return to the level you once were. But, like, man, I'm just looking at the numbers of him last year. He was crazy good. In 8 games, he ran for 937 yards and 10 touchdowns. He still scored the second most points on the Titans in half PPR, only behind Ryan Tannehill. So he scored more fantasy points than any other player outside of the quarterback. That's nuts. In 8 games.
and I'm just telling you, man, that loss of A.J. Brown is going to be felt on every single inch of that roster. That is more of a hit than I think anyone realizes. And I think that we honestly will look back on this, come February, and we're going to say, wow, how the hell did the Titans go from the number 1 seed in the AFC to not even sniff in the playoffs? I think that's what you're going to see, and it's going to affect everyone. And I think you're going to see Derrick Henry. I just really think this is where you see the end of Derrick.
I mean, he'll see even more stacked boxes, at this point. But moving over here to wide receivers, and we've got a new core here, as I mentioned. So Treylon Burks is leading the way with a wide receiver 98 ranking, or wide receiver 36 ranking, 98 overall. Robert Woods is new, and then we got Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, and then it's just a bunch of dudes. But I mean, like you mentioned, you're not really buying into this. The rankings say that Burks is the number 1. I'm more on Robert Woods. Are you trusting Woods or Burks more?
I mean, God, man, having to give me the choice of the two, it's Robert Woods. I mean, I honestly am not a big fan of Treylon Burks. It's not that it's so much him as much as it also is the combination of his skill set and then the team he lands on. I don't know that he could have landed in a worse spot than in Tennessee for him personally. He is the kind of guy that at the NFL level, I don't see him getting a whole bunch of separation. And I'm not so sure that he's got the type of hands in traffic that he's going to be a super productive wide receiver. He needs to have a guy like an A.J. Brown to take a lot of the pressure off and get him some open space. Robert Woods is not that guy.
Not that guy.
And they don't have anyone else behind him.
I think people are just buying Burks because they think the volume's going to be there. And a wide receiver, I mean, that's basically like wide receiver 3 level, right? It's that. I'm not buying it this year for that. Dynasty, maybe I'll take a stab at Treylon Burks, hoping that like maybe Willis takes over next year and can actually be good. Like there's some like kind of hope with Burks in the future for Dynasty, but for 2022, nah.
Nope, I'm gonna touch him in this spot.
I'm gonna pass. So finishings off here with tight ends, and we got Austin Hooper leading the way here for this team. Jess Swaim, and then
go ahead, Joe.
Couple of guys that I'm going to pass on that. I've been good most of the night that we've been recording, and I'm going to end right there.
That sounds like something off the Taco Bell menu.
Hey, who knows, man? So with Austin Hooper here, I mean, look, he's had some solid years in the past. Could he be like a 50, 500, 3, 4, 5 touchdowns this season, for the Tennessee Titans? And I mean, that's rosterable a lot of weeks in fantasy, sadly.
I mean, I've always liked Austin Hooper, and he really hasn't given me a whole lot of reason to keep on liking him. But I mean, the one thing I'll say about him is, he may not play 17 games this season, but he's not going to miss a lot of the season. He's usually pretty consistent. He's never played less than 13 games in a season. He's had a couple of really good seasons. His last 2 seasons in Atlanta, he had 71 and 75 catches. He's never quite sniffed 100 yards, but He's always in the end zone a decent amount for a tight end, but I mean, same thing that I've talked about in other videos to this point with the tight end crews that we've been talking about. Once you get to this level of tight end, they're all touchdown dependent anyways.
Yeah.
So if anything, I kind of like the fact that Austin Hooper doesn't have any for sure like high-end competition for targets. They're not throwing the ball to the running backs. They don't have a running back that can catch. I mean, he's fighting against Burks and Woods for catches. Woods might, who knows what you're going to get out of those guys. So I actually like Hooper much better than where he sits. I'm not saying he's a tight end 1, but to be dead honest with you, I don't know that I would hate Austin Hooper if I had to, before you take a tight end late, to have him as my number 1 tight end. I would obviously back that up with somebody pretty close to him right afterwards to have a similar player as a backup plan. But I don't hate Austin Hooper in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at some of the guys going around him. Irv Smith is right in front of him. Evan Ingram, Gerald Everett. Adam Troutman's behind him. Hayden Hurst is behind him. I mean, you got other guys, like if you go a little higher, Logan Thomas, Noah Fant, Robert Tonyan. I mean, again, all super touchdown dependent guys. Outside of maybe Logan Thomas, that one's interesting. I think I could
move him 10 spots up on that list, and I wouldn't be angry about it.
You can literally just put all their names in a hat and be like, okay, you're number 15, you're number 16, you're number they're all gonna finish within like 10 points of each other, but they're all gonna be horrible. So it's fine.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, man. Well, let's close it out here. I want to thank you guys for listening to the Tennessee Titans team preview. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Leave those comments. We appreciate it. And go ahead and check out some of the other team previews that we've got on this channel. Talk to you later.